Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our latest edition of TWG Plus's webinar series. My name is Scott Novak. I'm the president of TWG Plus, and along with me today, I have Jeremy Sturdahl, our client services manager. Today, we are going to be discussing the topic of get the most out of your yield efforts. As you may have seen on your email communication, we started communicating with you about get the most out of your yield events. However, in going through the development of this presentation today, we recognize the importance of talking to you about communicating with your prospects, both from a communication standpoint as well as communicating the events that you may have during the yield phase. So we wanted to make sure that we discuss that with you. And the reason being is that this statistic that we're about to show you, 63.8% of students a school accepts will not attend that school, is the reason why we felt we needed to have a more comprehensive presentation today. This goes to show that the efforts being taken by students to apply to more than just a couple of schools and be accepted is important. So what we wanted to do is, again, focus on the communication phase. I'm getting some notes that the screen is not at full size, but I don't know how to fix that, so we're going to move ahead anyway. That's the main reason why students are taking so many chances with different schools, and the competition is fierce at the yield phase. So I think this alone offers enough rationale to do all you can to increase your yield efforts, from communication to events and personal targeted outreach. Okay, a little bit about ourselves. I'm Scott Novak, president of TWG Plus. I've been here since the inception of TWG Plus, and I was in enrollment management for 8 years prior to going on the enrollment marketing side. I've worked with a number of schools in my time, from small private liberal arts colleges to large state institutions. And I wanted to hand it over to Jeremy to introduce himself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jeremy Sturdahl, and as it says there, I've got about 10 years in higher education, working with traditional day school admissions, non-traditional admissions, and even a little bit of financial aid. And I'm working here with TWG Plus for about 4 years, helping consulting and strategizing, primarily search and ComFlow communications. So, great.
Thank you, Jeremy. So today, what we're going to be talking about, number one, as I mentioned, a lot of discussion on yield communications. And in our work, we have experienced a tremendous increase of communication efforts at the yield phase for colleges and universities. What typically used to be very process-oriented communications post-acceptance has really been transformed, especially in the last 2 to 3 years. And again, based on that statistic of the competition for students that have been applied and accepted at so many institutions. We also wanted to address acceptance packages and the importance of creating an acceptance package that embraces the celebration of the student's acceptance to your institution. So we have some great ideas and samples of work that has been done by either schools that we have worked with or schools that we've seen, and wanted to showcase some of that for you. Also, effective promotional strategies, ways in which you can communicate to your prospects to promote campus events at the yield phase, as well as some other digital communication strategies that you might be able to employ. Leveraging current students. This is something that we've done a lot more of recently with schools, in encouraging them to utilize their current students as brand ambassadors of their institution. So we'll talk a little bit about ways in which you can do that very cost effectively, obviously, and really is a great way to communicate the true value and brand of your institution. And then we'll wrap up with some digital marketing ideas, and if we have enough time, we will answer any questions that you may have. For those of you that have attended our webinars in the past, we do all we can to make sure that this webinar stays within a 30-minute time frame, so that you can get back to your normal daily lives, and we can get right to the point. So first, talking about yield communications. As we've developed communication campaigns at the yield stage, one of the things that we often emphasize is that repetition is key. We do a lot of focus groups with prospective students, both at the inquiry, application, and acceptance stage. And students typically, time and time again, will tell us that they don't mind being communicated with more and more after they've been accepted. Where they typically have the most issue with being over-communicated with is during the inquiry prospect stage, because they're sort of weeding out the schools they're interested in. So I think all bets are off once the students are accepted, and that repetition and encouraging the students to take next steps is okay at that point. One thing that we always recommend too is to rethink how you're speaking with your audience. Now that may sound a little odd, but what we're trying to say is read through your communications with your accepted students. And if you are reading it in a very sort of robotic format, that maybe it's time for you to think about restating some of the things and how you speak to your students. Students today, and we see this in our search campaigns that we develop, really respond very well to a more relaxed tone. So bring your current students in, sit them around a table and say, look, if we were to send you these communications, how would you feel about how it's written and how we're speaking to you? And 9 times out of 10, students will say, it just seems very formal. Maybe you need to lighten it up a little bit. So I think this is a very simple thing that you can do to increase engagement with your accepted students, is to rethink about how you're communicating and speaking to them. Every time that you send a communication to your accepted students, you should encourage them to share something on social media. Not only so that you can monitor this and see their reactions, but also anytime that they're speaking about you in a positive tone on social media, their friends and their family are seeing this type of engagement, and it only helps build your brand as an institution. This sort of theme, we will restate this in a number of different ways throughout this presentation today, but it is so very vital that you coordinate efforts to encourage students to speak about you on social media. Are you standing out from your competition at the yield phase? I'm sure you've all done the secret shopper, right? You sign up and you go on your competitors' sites and you're on their inquiry list, but the problem is the communications then stop because obviously you're not going to apply to the institutions. But if there's any way that you can learn about how your competitors are communicating post-acceptance, is very valuable, because more than likely you are one of a set of 4 or 5 other schools that you are recruiting to attend your institution. And if there's any way that you can find out how they are speaking to the students post-acceptance, is very valuable information for you to see how you're faring against your competition. And then finally, make them feel like part of your family from the start. The operative word in that sentence obviously is family. Students and parents want to believe that this is an extended family that you're attending. You all know this. But if there's any way that you can really make that family word stand out in your communications, your students will respond better. We wanted to state here too, remember, students love stuff, and what we mean by stuff is any type of branded gear that you can send your accepted students. Make them feel part of the organization. T-shirts, lanyards, cups, anything that you can send to a student once they've been accepted. If they start using those gifts or wearing those gifts as their T-shirts, they feel part of the organization. They feel part of your institution already. They've mentally committed to your institution. So those are, if you can get that into your comm flow, those are great things to add, and it's a great way to extend the brand of your institution, because they will be wearing it and their peers will be seeing it, their family members. Again, it's another great way to extend the brand of your institution. Stay top of mind. So we will show you a couple of examples of some of the creative work that we've developed or we've seen developed for other schools. Postcards at the accepted students stage are a great way to help continue your brand for brand recognition. Again, it stays in the mailbox. It's going to be read by the parents, going to be seen by the students better. And to create a accepted student postcard series is a great way to stay engaged and stay creative rather than just sending letters at that point. We do often do focus groups with accepted students and ask them, would you want to receive letters from faculty and alums? And 9 times out of 10, they say, if I am accepted at the institution, yes, because it gives me a better feel for the total campus environment at the school. So letters at the inquiry stage or on in search from faculty or alums sometimes get passed off. However, if they've been accepted, they are going to be reading those letters. So we encourage you to engage faculty in that, or even alums if possible. And if you're going to use alums, we strongly recommend to use younger alums, ones that can speak to the value of the education that they received and how it's impacted them early on in their career. Using emails to keep them informed of deadlines I'm sure you're all doing that. It's okay to send a lot of emails at the accepted student stage, but again, as I mentioned earlier on, read the emails through and see how you're speaking to the students. If it's very process-oriented and very boring, it's really not going to give a good vibe of your institution at that stage. And don't forget their biggest influencers, the parents. I cannot tell you how many parent communication flows we have seen being developed in the past couple of years, whether that be in the printed format or in technology, whether it's email or whatever the case may be. We have seen a tremendous increase on parent communication as well. And finally, reach them where they live. And we all know where they live, and that's on their phones. That's on social media. So if there are ways that you can engage and connect with your prospects or your accepted students in social media, we strongly recommend that, obviously. And we're going to show you some examples of how some schools did that. Here are a few. At the top left-hand corner, you can see a campaign that was done by Northern Kentucky University called I Am Norse. That is the hashtag that they use. And when the acceptance letter was sent out, they asked students to post pictures of them with their Norse hat on, showing their Norse pride in the fact that they were excited about having been accepted to Northern Kentucky University. Now, obviously, the image in the middle there is worth its weight in gold from an admissions standpoint, because now there's a group of 6 students that have been accepted to Northern Kentucky University, showing their Norse pride and sharing it on social media. So think of all the people that have now seen this unique way to celebrate their acceptance to Northern Kentucky online. And then, of course, there's some other ones in here too. Greetings from Catawba College. They did a really nice job of connecting on a personal level with their accepted students. And then St. John's and University of Montevallo, 2 other institutions that promoted or recommended that their accepted students show the posters that they developed about how excited they were to be accepted at their institution. And one of the things that we recommend that the admissions or enrollment office does at that point is do the best they can to monitor any student that is tweeting, putting on Instagram, Facebook about their acceptance. If a student is doing this, they're going to be sending in a deposit more than likely, and that is someone that should rise to the top of your communication efforts and be considered a very hot prospect, obviously. So, wanted to move into a discussion about acceptance packages. I want to show some examples of acceptance packages that we have developed or seen developed for colleges and universities. Number one, the most important aspect of this is making the acceptance package a celebration. We wanted to make sure that when you send that letter, it's not just a letter with a bunch of instructions about how to enroll in the institution. That a lot of the process-oriented materials, they can come at another time, but use this opportunity to celebrate your acceptance. Don't be afraid to take risks with your packages. We have seen some really creative ways that schools are taking this opportunity to celebrate the acceptance. We've had some develop Rubik's Cubes that they send along. We have seen schools that have said to recommend that they take pictures with their sunglasses on where they're talking about the brighter future. We have seen yard signs that have been developed. So there are some great ways to create very cool acceptance packages for your students. And again, make it easy to share on social media. Recommend ways to do it, give them instructions on how to do it, and find ways to engage on social media their acceptance. And as I mentioned earlier on, save the boring process materials for a follow-up. And you can even tell them that in the acceptance package. We just want to celebrate today your acceptance. We'll tell you at a later communication about how to go about doing this, but right now we want to just bring your acceptance to the forefront.
Yeah, I mean, I think the key here is that, we all know this generation's kind of a little bit different, and it's the paradigm has switched. They're not looking they're looking for you to recruit them as much as they're looking to get in that, they want you to do the choosing. So if you're making them feel special, they're going to be more likely to choose you. So the students that get the letters with the process are going to think that that school is not really as interested in them as they might be in you. So when you get something out there that makes them feel special, and keep that going, as the previous slide said, keep that communication up, make them feel continually wanted. We've seen that they're used to a constant stream of feedback from friends, from family, from social media, and they're going to expect that constant stream of feedback from you. And it really starts with that splash piece to say, hey, we want you to come to our school. You want us, and we want you. We're a match. So they're going to want to be recruited as badly as you think they're looking for a school. So keep that as a two-way relationship.
Thank you, Jeremy. So make a personal connection. We actually spoke to a school just the other day. Now, not every school can obviously do this because based on numbers and time and resources, but they made a point to make sure that they connected with every accepted student and learned something about them and detail that in their CRM. So for example, if they knew that they had an accepted student that was a fan of the Chicago Cubs, they might send them something in their letter or a note or an email that said, congratulations that they made the World Series. So just something like that, a little note about every student. I know that's difficult to do and it takes a lot of time, but it means a lot to the prospective student and to their families that you tried to connect with them on more than just a process-oriented level. Taking the time to call, send a note, or answer a question does go a long way. In a lot of the focus groups that we've conducted, students will remember the school that took the extra step to get to know them. I know you all know this, but anytime that you can find a way to do this and connect on that level, take the extra step in sending a personal note, all the better. And finally, go ahead.
I was going to say, this ties back to the social media bit as well. If you're sending them something and they're sharing it, they're sharing their acceptance, they hashtag you or use one of your hashtags, that's an opportunity to show them to retweet or respond to it. So it doesn't just have to be on that personal note or email level. It could be also getting engaged in their social media sharing and showing them you noticed.
Exactly. And then finally, making it as easy as possible for them. You've probably seen a lot of this, but checklists, very simple checklists, do very well with prospective students and their families. And if there's a way to graphically show that in either a postcard or on your acceptance folder or even in a poster, I think that those tend to connect and resonate with students a little bit better than a checklist that is part of a longer letter that you might send them. So think about ways to graphically show a checklist for students. Here's some examples of some acceptance packages. We just want to put some of them out there. Texas A&M University San Antonio sent out this poster format along with a box of colored pencils and suggested students color that in, a cool, unique way to engage with the student and to get them learning more about Texas A&M University San Antonio. They also could show their completed art form online through social media, again, and then they could follow them. And any student that did that took the time to show that, obviously, very hot prospect. Catawba College sent a really nice accepted student package where they showed the checklist of important dates. It was very prominent within the package, and then also offered a poster where they had a pennant on there. So they did a nice job of sort of showing the brand of Catawba College. And while you can't see a lot of this, it was written in a very relaxed tone. It was very exciting for the student. Thought they did a really nice job there. You saw earlier the Northern Kentucky Norse hat and the poster that they did in recommending that students show that online. But what we really liked about this one was that the phrase that they used on the cover at the acceptance folder was UNNKU, it's on. Rather than congratulations or you've been accepted, they sort of tried to speak more on the student level, tried to be a little more creative and let their personality of the institution come through. Okay, so we're going to move on to some promotional strategies, things we wanted to talk to you about today. Number one, and I'll let Jeremy talk a little bit about this, is offering small rewards along the way gets the student to move from the next stage more efficiently. So Jeremy, go ahead.
Yeah, from the point of acceptance to the point of sitting in a seat or coming to orientation as school starts, that's a long way, and there's a lot that goes on in there in the life of a student. And just think of the world that they experience now. I like to frame it in terms of the app games that pretty much all of us play. You're not looking at a major end result. Some of them don't even have an end result. What they have is small rewards along the way for accomplishments. So as you have an accepted student, if they sign up for an orientation, if they submit their deposit, if they, whatever step along the way that's in your process, send them a reward, whether it's maybe it's just a communication, maybe it's another piece, the next step along the way, maybe it's something branded from the university, a gel bracelet or a flash drive or a t-shirt even. But offer small steps along the way rather than having to focus on this big overwhelming picture. Everything they accomplish along the way can be acknowledged and rewarded by you to keep them engaged in the process throughout.
Other effective promotional strategy is to make sure that any time there is a campus event that an accepted student knows about it, whether that is a guest speaker, a big athletic game, an accepted students day, spring weekend, any type of Greek campus event. They should be knowing about activities that are happening on campus so that they see the campus community and all of the things that are going on, keeps them more engaged, gets them feeling more like they are part of the institution to know that these things are happening. Texting at this stage is okay. We get that question all the time, how about texting as a form of communication? And our response is typically, you can try it at the search stage or during the inquiry stage. However, most students will tell you that they find the texting a little annoying earlier on, but once it's accepted, that's a different situation. They feel like they are part of the community, they're okay with texting, and that will become a very effective way to communicate with your accepted students. Remarketing off of, if you have an accepted student site, remarketing off of that, and we'll talk a little bit about this more, is another great way to connect with the students. More than just on email and print, you can now push advertisements to them if they've gone to your accepted student site. And we typically recommend, if you're going to do that, to make sure that they are event-based. So rather than just push out another advertisement about the institution, they know about you at this point, start communicating the value of attending various events or talk about the events that happen on campus. If someone other than an admissions or enrollment representative could help out at this point, this might be a little difficult, that would be great. Getting faculty engaged, getting other staff members, and most importantly, current students would be a great way to, great people to add to the mix at this point. And finally, changing your promotional strategy typically results in having to change your budget. And we typically see colleges and universities, their budgets tend to go along the same line as your recruitment funnel. Put a lot of dollars at the front end with suspects and prospects, and then as you get it whittled down to applications, accepts, and deposits, your communication and marketing budget tends to lessen. Our recommendation would be to consider it more like a cylinder. It should be the same throughout. You're going to have much better return on investment by enhancing your accepted student communications than you would even at the search phase. So think about that investment throughout your funnel and making sure that you're allocating enough dollars at later stages to make sure you are driving that student engagement all the way through the end. Some examples of some campaigns that we really liked. Oglethorpe University in Atlanta, Georgia did a really nice accepted student postcard campaign. Now you'll notice, if you can see on screen, they continued to market the institution to the accepted student. They talked about the value of Atlanta, or it's all about the student, and they did a really nice job of not going so process-oriented post-acceptance, and this campaign did very well. They saw an increase in yield numbers and yield percentages, so they did a really nice job. And then Ave Maria and Marshall University, again, they also did some really nice postcard campaigns to accepted students.
And you can support those postcards as we have in these cases with an email campaign as well. For instance, the Oglethorpe one, each of those postcards goes out with 2 accompanying emails on the same theme. So you're reinforcing your message. So if it's about Atlanta as the attraction, the big city that Oglethorpe is in, the 2 emails that will go at the same time will also speak to Atlanta. So you can really have a 1-2 punch there and mix in social media and then other kind of communication in a nice, well thought out plan.
Okay, leveraging current students. This is something that we are seeing a lot more of, and then we highly recommend if you have good or even if you have great student ambassadors, if there's a way that you can encourage them to take part, it really helps deliver the true value of your institution at this stage. So what we want to do is make sure that the prospects are seeing an authentic experience through the eyes of those currently living it. We can change our communications and we can rewrite our letters and we can be more creative with our acceptance packages, but at the end of the day, they are going to want to connect with those that are actually experiencing the institution firsthand. So leveraging your current students is really a great way to speak to the brand of the institution and all the advantages that come along with being a student there. Remember, school pride starts early. Give them a reason to get excited. If you have current students that are at an athletic event or they're talking about a great student life event that they've been at, that those are great things to post on social media to get prospective students excited about. So making sure that you're leveraging those opportunities are the best way to really use the brand ambassadors.
Yeah, use them in the avenues that your prospective students are familiar with. If there's a homecoming thing, Facebook Live from there, but have your students do it. Have them interact with students who are on social media, and they'll feel a real special connection when they come to campus and actually meet those students that they interacted with in that venue. So really get them involved in where all the other students are already.
Okay. We do some student ambassador training, and it's much more extensive than what you're seeing right here, but I wanted to pull out a few slides from that training to really kind of give you an idea of how we would recommend training the student ambassadors to talk about your institution in a very positive way to your prospects. And so you can just see some things on here about making sure that they take a picture that shows branded gear, that they're tagging the school, they're hashtagging an event, adding comments. They're just really being positive and engaging in how they're promoting the institution and their experience on campus. And so finally, we want to wrap up with a little bit on digital marketing. Any way that you can use digital marketing to enhance your communications to your accepted students, all the better. So you want to make sure that you have really strong cross-channel coordinated campaigns. We mentioned earlier on about remarketing. We want to go all the way through deposit and making sure that's even moving into anti-melt. If students are going to an accepted student page or an accepted student day page or something like that, pushing remarketing efforts to them at that point is really a great way to continue to put your name in front of them. Targeting the most recent and frequent engaged responders in email. You see that a lot in student search campaigns where you put more effort into communicating with those students that have clicked on various emails or spent a little more time in the email. But it's even better at the accepted student stage, where if you send out a blast email to all your accepted students and there's a way for you to track who is responding to what, who's clicking on what, those that spend a little more time should be considered hotter prospects. Maybe it's worth a phone call, or you're setting up different levels of communication based on how students are engaging in the email. Focusing on customer service on social media. If there's a way that you can monitor students that are talking about you or showcasing their excitement about attending your institution, if you can respond to them and enhance your customer service on social better, I think that really gives them a great way to understand how important you feel they are, and you're responding to them efficiently is a great way there. And finally, if you have the opportunity to do this, at the end of the year, run an analytics audit to benchmark click and conversion rates for next year. Anything that you can do to better give yourself information as to how to do something even better the following year, all the better. So we totally recommend that. Either you can do that on campus, or if you have a group that can do that for you, it really does help you develop and enhance your communications in succeeding years. So that's really the last piece that we wanted to mention there, and wanted to see if anyone had any questions. I did not see any, but I'm going to look real quick to see if I have any in here. You can post your question in the chat tab to the right. Otherwise, I'll just give it a minute here to see if we have any. How should academic programs be involved in this process? At the yield phase, academic programs definitely should be involved because students have selected a program that they're interested in. If you can get someone from a certain department or academic program to help in this process, it really, really, really helps you overall because in the focus groups and the surveys that we've done with accepted students, we've asked that specific question. How much do you want to hear from the academic programs? And they, 9 times out of 10, will say, we want to once we've been accepted. Early on in the process, not necessarily as much. Do these strategies apply to adult learners? I think there are some of this absolutely applied to adult learners. I don't know that sending Rubik's Cubes and sunglasses really would help adult learners.
I'd say from what we've seen in adult programs is the constant contact aspect is, they're definitely, adult learners are often making a risky choice, something they're much more nervous about, especially if they've been out of school for a while. So they'll need that reassurance that they're making the right choice. They're also going to want it on a shorter time frame generally. I think if you're in that space that you want to capture them early and get them in quickly, but throughout you just want to reassure them. So that point about constant contact and giving them good stuff to go on, simple, clear instructions, get them in quickly is definitely valid here.
Okay, so we're starting to get more questions. There's a question about parents and what have we seen as effective communication strategies with parents. I think that is even more emphasis should be put on a cross-section of individuals communicating with the parents. So while students do like to hear from faculty and alums and current students, parents probably like it even more. So a letter from an alum talking about how their degree really helped shape their career and what they're doing now is something that resonates even better with parents, especially young alums. While it's great to send a letter from a CEO of a company, at the end of the day, they want to hear the immediate return on investment, not how it's going to affect them 20, 30 years down the road. Recent alums would be a great way to communicate with parents there too.
Try to get to a couple quickly. How do you text students? Generally that's done based on your CRM. So not to recommend any, but I know that if you have a Slate or a Target X or something like that, those have a functionality where you can text students straight through there.
It sounds like print communications are still effective, such as postcards and brochures. Yes, our response to that would be yes, they are still effective, but it really should be a cross-section of it. I always use this analogy, and it sort of holds true in the enrollment phase as well. When you go to buy a new car, when you talk to the salesperson and you say, I'm interested in the car, and they say, well, we'll just send you an email. You kind of walk away saying, well, this is a big investment for me. I don't know that an email is what I want. You want the glossy brochure. So yes, when you're making this type of decision, print communications, especially at the accepted student stage, is very important.
And email is an ongoing struggle, I think, on a technical level to get mass email, especially if you're sending out to a lot of students. So they're getting so many emails they may not read yours. So you do want that extra level of security. And frankly, parents like to see it. As a parent of a freshman in college right now, I like getting stuff in the mail from the college, even though I'm a very electronic-based person. Just getting that, again, that's that extra touch. It shows you're spending a little more and you're putting a little more effort into communicating with them.
We also had a couple of questions that focused around budget, and while there's a few of them, so I'll just try to address it in one fell swoop, is that what research have we done? Why would we recommend changing or allocating budget differently across the funnel? And we have seen schools that have switched or changed or reallocated some of their budget dollars to later on in the funnel have seen a tremendous increase in yield percentage. And I think a lot of times colleges and universities work very, very hard to get applications in the door. And once applications come in, they kind of sit back and take a deep breath and say, okay, we've done our job. But at the end of the day, marketing should never stop. It should continue on until that student is in a classroom on the first day of campus in September. And in order to do that, you really can't utilize all of your budget resources early on in the funnel. You've got to save some dollars to continue to market aggressively to those students later on in the funnel. And we will see yield percentages increase. It may sometimes see a little bit less from the inquiry stage, but at the end of the day, your return on investment is going to be so much better at the yield stage if you continue to allocate enough resources to do a really good job of communicating with your accepted students. So at this point, we've run out of time, and I wanted to thank everybody for attending this session. We will be sending an email out to all of you about our next presentation, which will be in a few weeks, which will be discussing actually one of the topics that was asked in a question, and that is of print communications and how to develop very creative image-enhancing publications. So that we'll have some of our creative staff on that, and I'm hopefully you will all attend. I know it'll be a great session, and hopefully you can learn a lot from that too. Again, thank you all for joining us today, and wish you the best of luck in your recruitment efforts.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Take care, everyone.